What if I told you that America's biggest industrial defeat in 2025 didn't come from China or Russia, but from the country right next door? It started quietly. A seemingly harmless tariff hike on Canadian aluminum and steel. A minor move in the grand chessboard of trade politics, but within months it spiraled into a full-scale economic shift across North America. Factories closed, jobs disappeared, defense supply chains, the kind that keep fighter jets in the sky, cracked under pressure. And Canada? Canada walked away with something it hasn't held in decades. A commanding industrial advantage over the United States. This is the story of how America tried to protect its industries, and instead handed its neighbor the keys to the future. Let's rewind to early 2025. The White House invokes Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, doubling import duties on steel and aluminum from Canada, from 25% to a staggering 50%. The official line? Protect critical American industries. But here's what they didn't say. In 2023, nearly half of all U.S. aluminum imports came from Canada, and Canada produced 80% of all primary aluminum in North America. Cutting that supply wasn't just hitting a neighbor, it was hitting yourself in the face. The market reacted instantly. In a single trading day, aluminum prices in the Midwest soared to $1,325 per ton, the highest in history. Manufacturers like GM, Ford, and Boeing faced a nightmare. Pay the massive price hike or shut down production lines entirely. Mark Richardson, an aerospace supplier in Ohio, told CNBC,
"We've never seen raw material prices swing this fast, and there's no federal plan to deal with it."
This wasn't just a factory problem. Higher prices slowed production. Slower production meant less electricity use, and that meant power utilities, already barely covering infrastructure costs, saw revenues shrink. At the Alcoa plant in Iowa, shift supervisor Mike Jensen was sending workers home early.
He told local radio, "Mortgages don't wait for aluminum prices to stabilize."
Families were scared. Communities were shrinking. And yet, while Washington scrambled to justify the chaos, Ottawa didn't flinch. Within weeks, Canada launched a $1.5 billion investment into upgrading the massive Alouette smelter in Quebec. They locked in multi-decade, low-cost, clean power deals with Hydro-Quebec, guaranteeing stable production prices regardless of global market swings. And then, they went shopping for customers. By mid-spring, Canada had signed long-term aluminum supply contracts with the EU and Japan, tariff-free, increased exports to the UK, Singapore, and Italy, lured Asian buyers away from US suppliers entirely. Why? Lower costs, cleaner energy, predictable politics. But here's the most important thing. Ottawa wasn't thinking about short-term wins. They were thinking strategically, about how to permanently tilt the industrial balance of North America in their favor. Historically, over 70% of Canadian aluminum exports traveled through US ports or rail corridors. That gave Washington a choke point. Canada decided that era was over. They approved a $2.3 billion expansion of the port of Saguenay, Quebec, building direct shipping routes to Europe and Asia that bypassed US territory entirely. To make it work, they upgraded a 375 kilometers rail link from the smelters to the docks. The result? 28% faster shipments, $12 CAD less in transport cost per ton.
Pierre Ganol, CEO of the Saguenay Port Authority, put it bluntly, "Our products will leave on our terms, not someone else's."
This was perfectly timed with Europe's new carbon border adjustment mechanism, which taxes high-carbon aluminum imports. Quebec's hydro-powered aluminum, zero tariff. That meant US producers, still using fossil fuels, simply couldn't compete in the European market. Here's where things get dangerous. Aluminum isn't just for cars or soda cans, it's a critical defense material. Fighter jet fuselages, missile casings, armored vehicle panels, satellite frames. By 2024, over 42% of the Pentagon's high-purity aluminum came from Canada. Some missile programs depended on them for nearly 60% of their needs. When US smelters shut down in early 2025, the Pentagon quietly went on high alert. Former Undersecretary of Defense Frank Kendall warned,
"If your ally is also your single point of failure, you've created a strategic vulnerability."
And Ottawa moved fast to turn that vulnerability into leverage. They boosted defense spending by 6.2%, directing $700 million CAD annually toward aerospace materials production. They signed multi-year contracts with Airbus, Lockheed Martin, and BAE Systems. Canadian green aluminum started fetching a 15–18% premium in defense contracts because it met both NATO environmental standards and military-grade tolerances. Meanwhile, U.S. defense projects like the F-35 were already 3 months behind schedule due to aluminum shortages. While Washington was firefighting defense supply issues, Ottawa was building an integrated green tech ecosystem. Aluminum frames from Quebec, lithium batteries from Manitoba and Ontario, EV assembly in Ontario's manufacturing corridor, all powered by clean hydroelectricity. Tesla signed long-term deals for Canadian aluminum and nickel. In just 1 year, Canada's EV exports jumped 22%, growing twice as fast as the US, and it wasn't just volume, it was market access. Europe's and Asia's strict emissions rules gave Canadian EVs tariff-free entry, while US automakers were priced out. Every shipment became more than an export. It became a bargaining chip in global negotiations. By late 2025, Canada had linked its green tech dominance with its defense sector indispensability. Over 60% of countries buying Canadian defense-grade aluminum also bought Canadian EV batteries. A $1.8 billion dual-use supply initiative tied these two industries together, making them harder to replace without massive disruption. Germany's next-gen Volkswagen EVs shared 70% of their supply chain with NATO-certified aerospace components. Japan cut procurement times by 25% by sourcing both from Canada. For Washington, this was terrifying. A leaked Pentagon audit showed nearly half of its aerospace aluminum suppliers were also tied to Canadian green tech firms, meaning any dispute with Ottawa could cripple both the defense and clean tech sectors at the same time. In under 2 years, Canada transformed from reliable supplier to strategic hub for the 21st century economy. Its ports, railways, and smelters are built for speed, its trade deals are locked for decades, and its supply chains feed both EV showrooms and military hangars without missing a beat. While Washington is stuck in partisan gridlock, Ottawa is locking in markets, shaping alliances, and embedding itself into the global industrial core. So, is Canada's rise the result of brilliant strategy, or America's strategic blindness? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the real battles shaping our world, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter of this story is already being written.